Hi, my name's Steve Ray from Makita UK and I'm here with UK Planet Tools to bring you some new and specialist tools from Makita. We're going to be looking at some chainsaws on the 40 volt max platform, an 18 volt trimmer, a 40 volt half-inch router, a range of 40 volt sanders, an 18 volt impact wrench, a 40 volt shear wrench, and then a massive 80 volt breaker. So let's take a look at these products in some more detail. So now we have some new 40 volt XGT chainsaws to add to the range. So we have 4 altogether. The power units themselves are identical, so we're just going to go through the 4 differences between the machines before we get into the actual features of the power units themselves. So we have a UC022, which is a 350mm bar and chain, and that is done with the quick release bar and chain system as well as tensioner on the side. We then have the UC024, 025 and 026. Those 3 model numbers are depending on what sort of bar you've got on there. So if you've got the 300, the 350 or the 400mm bar, that will determine which part number you order. But then what you have on that one is those 3 machines all come with traditional bars and studs that you find on standard chainsaws. So that's the difference between the actual part numbers of the machines. The bodies themselves are actually identical. So the power units exactly the same. Nice slim line now, so they will only accept up to a 5 amp hour 40 volt battery. They will not take the 8 amp hour battery, I'm afraid. It won't physically fit in the side of the housing. Now with that in mind, the battery on the machine, they will give you 1600 watts of output power, which is equivalent to a 35cc chainsaw motor. Then, like traditional chainsaws now, the body of the machine has the inertia brake on the top, which you'd find on a standard chainsaw, as well as now we have our power on off button on the top of the machine, which will indicate with a green light. We've then got our trigger switch. Now with that, it has the new shark fin design lock off. So to engage the trigger on this, we need to slide forward, push down, and we can now engage the trigger on the machine. Once we release, the head goes back to the lock position. Now on the right hand side of the body of the machine, you can see on this version, as we have the toolless tensioner for the bar and chain. So for tensioning the chain, we've got the little button on the bottom right hand side, and then we have the large wheel on the front for undoing with the little knob that comes out on the side for the toolless one. And then when we go to the traditional one, it's just the bars and studs, which you get the spanner included in the box to undo them. As we move around the machine, we've got a metal chain catcher on the bottom. So like a traditional chainsaw, it is a metal catcher there, so if the chain snaps, it will wrap around on there. We then have a metal spike bar guide on the inside as well. Then we move to our quick release oil cap filter, so we can push the button, the knob flicks open, and we can now release that to put our chain oil in. We then have as well our oil flow adjustment, so depending on what size bar we have on the machine, the smaller the bar, the lower we set it. The bigger the bar, then we want to turn that up so we've got more oil flowing through the machine. And that's got a plus or minus, and it does have a waterproof cover over the top as well, so that you can just release that without any water getting into the body of the machine itself. On the machine now as well, we do have, like a traditional chainsaw, a large witness line running through the middle. So again, if you are felling larger trees or any sorts of trees, you can use that witness line to get the cut in the direction that the tree is going to fall. So that was the new chainsaws from Makita on the 40 volt XGT platform. The UC022, which is the toolless tensioner and bar and chain guide. And then we have the UC024, 025 and 026, which is our standard bars and studs. Now we're going to have a look at the new trimmer on the 18 volt LXT range. So the trimmer itself is ideally used for taking the edge off the materials like we've got in front of ourselves now. So if I could just take off the sharp edge off the material, or I could put a more decorative 1/4 inch bit into the machine and then give it a nice decorative finish on the edge of that board. But that is all this is used for, just taking the edge off stuff. It's a trimmer, it's not a router. With the machine, it's nice and easy to use. We slide our 18 volt LXT battery onto the top of the machine. We then have a lock off button or lock on button, depending on whether we're using the machine. So with the battery in place, I can push that once, which will unlock the machine. I can now push the power button to start the machine up. Once I start it up, it delivers 580 watts of output power, and that is done with the machine running at 30,000 RPMs. Then once I've done with the work I need to do to turn it off, I can just power it off and then push the lock button once, and that will lock it now, so if I do actually hit the power button when in transport, it won't start the machine up. The body of the machine as well, so to adjust this, we've got a nice fine adjustment which is done by the wheel on the side of the machine. So by turning that left and right, we'll move the machine up and down the body of the spindle. And then on the bottom, we've got a nice clear plastic perspex so we can see directly through onto the material that we're cutting. So that was the DRT52 trimmer from Makita. Now I'm really excited to bring you this next product. I'm sure it's something you've all been looking forward to as well. It is the WT001GZ 40V XGT router from Makita. The router itself delivers 1,900 of output watts, and we get to that by variable speed by the dial, which allows us to dial that down from 8,000 RPMs all the way up to 25,000 RPMs, depending on what the application is we're doing. Other features on the machine, as you can see from the front, we've got full depth adjustment, and we can do that by the millimeter as well with the micro adjuster on the side. And then we've got a 3-stage plunge depth adjustment as well. So if it's quick changing that you want to do, you can just rotate them around and that will give you different preset height adjustments. And the machine itself will allow us to plunge from 0 all the way down to 16 millimeters. Then on our side handle, as we move around to the side, we have our lock on and lock off function, which is basically our on off function. So when I put the battery on shortly, I will show you that illuminating the area so that you know the machine is active and ready to go. We also have, if you're using it for continuous use, we can lock the trigger on and lock it in the on position. So if you are using it over long periods of material, that will just stay in place. And when you're done, you can just flick the switch and that will automatically turn itself off. As we turn around the machine to the back, you can see here, so if you are using a guide rule on the side, you've got your screws there for adjustment of that, so you can lock them into place. You've got your dust extraction on the port, which is also powered by the AWS Bluetooth chip, which is fitted to the machine. And then on the side here as well, so when we are setting up the router for plunging down, we can push that down, and then we've got our large lock off lever on the side to lock that in place so we can set all our adjustments for plunging and the depths we're going down to. As I said, when we put the battery on the machine, you can see from this, we have now got no lights on the bottom, but if we push our lock on and off button on the side, that will illuminate the area with the LED light now on there, so we know the machine is active. If we don't push the trigger button within 5 seconds, as you can see, the light has automatically turned off and that has powered the machine down. So it's a safety feature that when you're not using it or not ready to use, it will automatically shut itself down so it's in a safe position. So that was the WT001GZ from Makita. It is the 40V XGT router that we've been looking for. So now we have some nice new sanders from Makita on the 40V XGT platform. These sanders particularly are designed to be nice and lightweight so that if you are using them all day, they'll be nice and comfortable for the user to use. We'll start off with the BO001 and the BO002, which is a 125mm and 150mm version of the Orbital disc sander. We then have the BO003 and the BO004. Again, the difference between them two part numbers is one is 125mm and one is 150mm. And then we have the BO005 and 006, which are square padded sanders that are 80 by 130mm in diameter on the square pad. Now, as you can see from these sanders, they're very lightweight and very small with a low center of gravity. So one of the main benefits of having these sanders now with the battery back disengaged is that they now come under 1 kilogram in weight. So they are 0.98 of a kilogram in weight. Features of the machine are we have a nice tactical switch on the front now. So when you push the button, you've got a nice firm push in and release on the front button to start the machine up. We then have Bluetooth dust extraction on the side, so you compare it to your Bluetooth dust extractor. On the other side, we do have our variable speed by the dial, so if you are setting the speed of the machine at what you want it to run at, it is nice and easy controllable from the side. The other feature on these machines, and when we go through these in the difference in the part numbers, is they are now denoted with a large number printed on the back of the head, which tells you how many mil orbital action this has. So as you can see, the BO001 and 02 have 5 mil of orbital action. The BO003 and 4, you can see from the number printed on the back of the head that has 3 mil orbital action. And then when we go to the square sanders, they all have 3 mil orbital action on them. So that's the main features of the machines themselves. They all do run up to 370 maximum output wattage. And then on the square sander, that goes up to 400 watts of output wattage. In the box as standard, what you get is your power connector. So as standard, it comes in at 1.6 meters, but you can buy an accessory, which is a 5 meter long version, if you need the extra length. With these as well, it's nice and easy, and it takes all the weight of your battery, so we can just slide our battery onto our connector, and that can either now go onto our belt clip, or we can leave it on the table for whatever area that we're sanding. With the connector now, it's nice and easy to just push this connector in, line the arrows up on the top, and that will just slot into the back. And now if we're moving between sanders, it's easy to do, where we can just take that one out and slot it into the other sander, and away you go. So that's what's included in the box in terms of the power adapter. And as I said, there is a 5 meter one also available. Also in the box, you get a standard dust extraction bag, which clicks onto the back of the machine, which is an excellent addition to the range, and especially for dust extraction. So we just lock that into the back now, and then for ease of use, we've got 2 clips on the sides. When we want to empty the bag out, we can just pinch that together, empty it out, and slot it straight back on the end of the machine. Then if you are using a Bluetooth dust extractor or an M-Class dust extractor, rather than the usual push-on nozzles, which you find when you're using your sander, moving it backwards and forwards, they can knock off nice and easy. With this adapter that's included in the box, that screws directly onto your dust extraction hose, and now that has a nice firm fix into the back of the machine and locks in position, so you don't really have to give it some welly to pull that off of the machine. So it's always going to be doing maximum dust extraction when connected with that attachment. Lastly in the box then, we get our lanyard, which is to go on our arm, so we can put that onto our arm, pull that up, and then with our cable now, so if we are sanding any delicate surfaces, nice tables, car bonnets, that type of thing, we can connect to the back of our machine, and then with our lanyard, we can push that onto our belt clip, which has got a quick release on there. And as you can see now, that removes the cable from dragging over the area that we're using. When we're done, we can just pull it free and detach it from ourselves. So that is the range of new brushless XGT sanders from Makita. Hopefully there's one of them for one of the applications you've got in mind. Now we've got the WT001GZ, which is an 18 volt LXT impact wrench. The impact wrench itself has a 1/2 inch square drive with an indent on the side as well to hold your sockets on. And then as we pick the machine up, we have variable speed by the trigger. We've got a forward and reverse by the side switch, and then the lock off position in the middle so the trigger can't be depressed. Then on the bottom of the unit, we've got our 3-mode impact selection switch, as well as a button that we can turn the LED light on and off if we wish. Now the machine itself does have twin LED lights built in, so as you can see from there, you have got 2 LED lights at the front of the machine to illuminate the area. The machine itself delivers a massive 1,300 Newton meters of nut busting torque, and then in standard fastening torque it will let you go up to 1,050 Newton meters of torque, and that is done with your selection. So in the high mode, your impacts per minute will be 2,400 impacts per minute. So that is the DTW1004Z on the 18 volt LXT platform from Makita. Now I'm going to bring you something a little bit special to the Makita range. This is the WT001GZ Shear Wrench. So I say a little bit special in the range, that's because this isn't for everyone. For anyone that's doing steel frames, that's sort of large structures that use shear bolts, which is generally an M16, M20 or M22 nut, this will be the tool for them. So this will make life easier for anyone that is using them type of bolts. With this machine, it allows us to go up to 870 Newton meters of fastening torque, but with a very low vibration level of 2.5 or below, so it is an all-day use tool. It is a large and heavy machine, so you do get a large strap for safety to hook over your shoulder when in use, because you may be using this up at height. And then the machine itself is quite straightforward, as in we have a large trigger on the front that we can just pull. Once we pull that machine, that will then start doing the tightening mechanism up inside the machine itself. So there is a little bit of magic that goes on in the head, and I will let you look into that if you want to look into it in further detail, because there is stuff out there about the head. But there is a series of different cogs that run through here to deliver that massive Newton meters of torque at a very precise and a low vibration level. Now, as I've said, it will take M16, M20 or M22 bolts, so depending on what size bolt you are using, you get the right head for that. Now, inside there's a double hex as such, so one side takes the outside of the bolt, and then on these shear bolts there is a little nib on the end, which is where it shears off at the right point of torque. That is held by the inside sleeve, and one turns one way and fastens the nut up, while the other one turns the opposite way. Once it reaches that shear point, it will just pop that little nib off, and as a safety feature as well, it will hold the little nib on the end of the socket, which is released by the little inner button which is on the inside here by the trigger, so that it isn't falling from height onto people that are passing below or onto anything below full stop. It will hold it nice and tight so that you can safely put it into its bucket, empty out the little nib that comes off, and it keeps it nice, safe and controlled. Now, if I lift the machine up, as I've already said, all we have on there is our strap to keep it nice and safe. Our battery sits on the bottom, and then we have our trigger, which is only one way and goes at one speed, which when we pull it, it just starts the machine up and gets the mechanism working inside. We then, on the front of the machine, you've got a large battery indicator. So what that will do is, one, it will go solid red when the battery is completely deleted, so the machine won't run. But as a safety feature, as this is going to be used up at height, there is an indication on there as well. So when the battery goes to a low status, the battery light will indicate by flashing red, so that if you have got it up at heights and you're doing up a large bolt, rather than it not getting done up because the battery's run out of power, you can swap that battery over and make sure you get a nice secure fixing into the material you're going to. So that is the WT001GZ Impact Shear Wrench from Makita. This is another exciting tool I'm going to bring to you now, which is the HM004GZ Road Breaker from Makita. So this is an 80 volt machine to get it to where it needs to be with this power, and with this machine it will deliver 72.8 joules of impact energy, which is massive. And in comparable to other breakers, that is comparable to our very popular HM1812, which is our current mains version of this machine. Now, as well with this machine, although it does deliver 78.2 joules of energy, with the AVT that's built into it, that will take it down to 6.5 meters a second on the anti-vibration as well. So very low in vibration, but has a massive output of power. Also, to go along with that, we have a motor in there that delivers 4,400 watts of output power. We have AWS, so it does have dust extraction on there, so when you are breaking up that concrete, we must be mindful that obviously the bigger bits won't shoot down the hoover, but all the small dust that will get into your lungs will go down the dust extraction attachment. We then have an on-off light on the top, which indicates when the machine is on, as well as a service light as well. So when you are running the machine, once it comes to the point where you need to send it in for a service, it will illuminate with a light on the top there, which then means that you can get it booked in and get that service done that it requires. The machine itself with the AVT has 4 large springs built into the head of the unit. So the head of the unit has some movement as well. And then inside the tube of the machine, we have some counterbalance weights. So as the piston goes forward, the counterbalance weights go up, which then counteracts the vibration going through the machine. Once we've got our 2 40 volt batteries on there, so it does take 2 and it must have 2 in at a time to run. We then, nice and easy, push the on button on the top of the machine, and then when we squeeze the handles, on the right hand handle here, you can see you've got your trigger press, which will get the machine moving in motion. So that is the HM004GZ Road Breaker from Makita. Thank you for watching. Hopefully you've seen something that you've been waiting for in the new products that we've just launched. All these products and all the information is available on Makita UK website, or if you wish to purchase or order these machines, they are all available on the UK Planet Tools website now.